Hey beautiful, how you doing today? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if this is your first time joining. Please don't forget to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. I love reading comments. So, I first just want to apologize for the regular watchers. I apologize about yesterday, just kind of, going ghost, and then I left like a little cryptic comment that said, something happened to Cam, and I'll be back. Just to keep it short and get on with the point of this video, I just want to, for those of you that do care or are curious, I just want to say quickly that it's complicated and I'm alright, he's alright. I will make a video addressing this whole situation separately. And I don't know when I'll post it. I'm going to make it like, I should be posting it. I don't know when I'll post it. But it's a complicated situation, as all relationships are. So I'm sure you can understand. And in this relationship, obviously, it's very complicated because he's in prison. I was in prison, now I'm out. It's a homosexual relationship. He's a great looking guy. He's lied in the past. He's very manipulative. And he's changed too. Like, I don't want to make him out to seem like just a terrible person. He's not a terrible person. He comes from a terrible background, and that has shaped him into a person who survives his situation, and he survives very well. He's came out on the top end, but in order to do that, there's a lot of things about a person like that isn't very good, so he's changed a lot of things, but then there's just some things, it's just part of his character, and it's just who he is. So it's a complicated thing, and I will make a whole separate video talking all about it. I think that it's time. I know that there's some curiosity, and then obviously it's affecting this channel because I'm not able to be consistent. I make videos and then I'll take it off. I'm making videos on a certain topic and I'm talking about him, so I need to just kind of like make a separate video just addressing, all of that, and then at least you'll understand it a little bit better and you'll have some insight into how difficult all of this is. But in the meantime, getting on with this video, this is a requested video. Again, I wouldn't say necessarily requested, but I've seen a couple of comments. There's been like 3 different comments that last week I had noticed, people asking about the Asian culture in prison. Like, oh, are there any Asians in prison? How many Asians did you meet in prison? How many Asians are there in prison? So I decided, because that topic, proudly for you Asians, for the Asians out there, hello, how you doing? I wish I could speak, some like Chinese or Japanese or Vietnamese or Mandarin or something, just to like say hello, how you doing, honey. But I don't know how to say anything, the only language that I know other than English is Spanish, and I don't speak it as well as I used to. As a kid, I literally thought I was like J-Lo's cousin. I dated guys that couldn't even speak English, and I just loved it. I just loved it. But as I got older, I just kind of, I felt uncomfortable. Like, I just felt uncomfortable, so I stopped. But I wish I hadn't. I can still speak a little bit, but just not as well as I did before. But anyway, to like be proud, I guess, for your group, for your culture, for your your peeps, they aren't really in prison, in the U.S. prisons, at least in Virginia. I can't speak for the rest of the country, but in Virginia there's not too many Asians, and that's why I decided to make this video about all the races that exist in prison, and I would cover Asians in this topic. So, I've been to 2 different prisons, 3 if you include receiving. When I first got, like, admitted into the system, I had to go to, like, a level 2 compound. It would have been my re-entry site. Re-entry meaning, like, as my time came to a close and I had to, like, transition back back into society and be released, they move you to a re-entry site, is what it's called, And this facility that I went to, it would have been my reentry site, but my time was so short that I ended up staying where I was, and also I was in a program, like, towards the end of my time, so they just left me where I was at, which I was glad because, you know, at the time I was with Cam. But I can speak on the type of races that I had seen, you know, in the facilities. Also, I was in 3 different jails prior to getting sent to prison. I was someone that was very difficult to house, and that's why I moved around a lot. Now, for starters, just to get this out of the way and address the obvious, I guess, the sad truth, the disgusting obvious, the ugly elephant that's, you know, in the room, majority of the people in prison are black, period. I don't know exactly how many prisons there are in Virginia. I think there's like 8 or something like that. 6, 8, 12, something. But there's like a handful of prisons in the state of Virginia. And when I first got admitted into prison, I told you I was at receiving. And then I went to a state facility. And the state facility that I was at, I call it Augustine Prison. That was, to me, there was... At first, when I first got on that compound, to me, I thought there was a lot of black people there. But as I was there, and I eventually got in the cell with this guy, I've mentioned him in the past, this guy who was like a homophobic dude. He didn't want to be in the cell with me. He used to like bash gay guys like in his teenage years and stuff like that. We ended up fooling around and stuff, but he was white. And as we were talking, he tells me, he's like, oh, well, actually, to tell you the truth, how I got transferred here is because this is like a predominantly white facility. There's only like 3 facilities that kind of are known for having like a lot of white guys, I guess, there. And they try to keep, you know, different ethnicities sort of grouped together. So where there's white people, they'll try to put more white people. And just for the safety, because obviously strength in numbers, and there's just majority of the people in prison is black, you know, which is a good thing, I guess, if you're in there, you know, for the black people, because it's kind of like the first time, other than, I guess, in, like, you know, your neighborhood or something like that, but other than that, it's like the first time where you really have, like, a strong support system, because everybody is your kind if you're black, you know. So there's that, but he was basically saying, like, you know, the compound that we're at, it's kind of, you know, this is the most white, he had been locked up for 12 years, okay, and he told me, he's like, this compound is the most white people that I have seen, actually, in my 12 years of doing time. And then there's 2 other compounds that are similar to the compound that I was at, but actually I think that where I was at had the most white people. So, and then when I got transferred to the private facility, Larryville, I call it Larryville, where Cam is currently at, that is predominantly a black, like, facility. The time that I was there was probably like, I'll try not to be dramatic and actually be accurate and say that there probably was like 50 white people sprinkled about the compound. So on a compound with 1,500 people, 1,200 people, they're probably, I'm not being dramatic. I was going to say like 10, but then I thought about it. I'm like, let me actually try to really be like accurate here. I think there was, we'll say 75 white people sprinkled, like, you know, few in this building, that building, you know, whatever, like 75 total white people, like, on that compound. And to be honest with you, when I was actually there, I thought that that was kind of cool. I mean, I thought that the white people, I was thinking like, wow, they kind of like bold, like not bold, but brave to still, you know, feel comfortable here when for the first time they're able to see, you know, that you're the minority, you know, you're outnumbered. But there still was like a lot of white people in segregation waiting to be transferred. When I first got to the private facility, I checked immediately into the hole, not because of anything like that, but because I had a prior plan with somebody that I had met at the state facility, and we were plotting to get into this like STAR program. It's kind of like a protective custody program. and I was having difficulty being housed anyway, so I just allowed them to move me into, you know, segregation, and I was hoping to get into that program. But anyway, while I was back there, I did notice that there was like most of the people that were back there, well, probably like half of the people that were back there were white, and they had refused housing. Like they were transferred to this compound, I guess had seen the compound, and immediately like went into the hole and refused to come out. And I think reasons like that, classification sees things like this, and I think that's why they try to group people together. And they do that with everybody. They do that with sex offenders, they do that with homosexuals, they do that with gang members, they do that with races. Now that we've covered black and white, moving on to the even fewer minorities, next on the scale would be Spanish guys. And I got a false like idea of how many Spanish people there are in prison from when I first got locked up. Because when I first got locked up, like I said, I went to receiving. I was in receiving for 2 weeks, which I didn't really see who was on that compound because I was like in isolation and just waiting to be classified basically. And then after 2 weeks, they moved me to the state facility. And when I was at the state facility, this place where I had already told you that like half of the compound, and I'm being nice by saying half, it was less than half, but it looked pretty mixed. Like it looked like half was about white, half was about black, and then, you know, the other quarter of it was Spanish, really. It was pretty popular. The group MS-13 was on that compound. That was where the bulk of Spanish people are locked up, period, from what I understand. Like, people had said that any Spanish people that really get locked up, they kind of end up there because that's where most of them are. The Spanish guys were at this state facility, and a lot of them got either tied with the MS-13 gang because, you know, they're Spanish, and, you know, you kind of connect with your own kind in prison just for security reasons, and or they either get tied to them because that's most of the Spanish people that are locked up, they end up joining this gang for like protection, even though it doesn't really help you. It actually gets you kind of like caught up in more trouble, but people think that joining a gang will help keep them safe. So they either end up joining the MS-13 gang, or if they don't join, the people that they all know are part of this MS-13 gang, so there's still like some affiliation with them anyway. Under that, I guess then you could say Asians to answer, and I'm sorry, I guess maybe I should have just mentioned Asians at the beginning of the video, because that was really what like motivated this conversation. But there really weren't any Asians actually in prison. That's what I said in my comments, but I kept getting the question, so I thought that I would just kind of like make a video just addressing it. The only Asians that I had met in prison was at the private facility. There was a guy, and I don't exactly know what his race was, and I apologize if that sounds ignorant, but I feel like he might have been either Korean or maybe Vietnamese, but I don't think that he was Chinese or Japanese. And he was a genius. He was like literally the smartest guy in the pod. I don't know about the compound, but like in the pod, he was like the smartest guy. He had gone to college and majored in engineering, and he just was like a wizard at like, you know, technology and electrical wiring and all these type of things. So people, they brought, this was a hustle actually for him. People, they would bring their TVs to his cell, the JP5 like music media players. If they had cable cords, like if their cable cord was messing up or something like that to watch TV, or their headphones, or if they wanted to create different things, because sometimes people, you know those two-way adapters, two-way headphone adapters or whatever, like you can plug it into your player and then there's two ends, so I could be listening to music and you could be listening to music on your headphones. Those things, they don't exist obviously in prison. You can't buy that on commissary or on property, but some people like this guy is smart enough to make it, to actually like create it themselves. wiring for light bulbs. But anyway, and he would charge people to do these services for them. And that was his hustle. That's how he, you know, was doing fine in prison. And he smoked a lot of weed. He smoked a lot of weed. That's actually how he ended up kind of like snapping one day. Like, it's actually kind of sad. He just, I don't know what happened to him, but I don't think anything like traumatizing happened to him. I think that he just kind of, a lot of people really have trouble being in prison sometimes. I had some trouble sometimes. Like, it really plays a lot on your mental health being in there, because it's just such a I don't know, a heavy environment. Like, it's just, and it's every day. It's hard every single day. It's kind of like people who are in war, you know, for like 2 years, and then they come back and they're still just like messed up, and then sadly they end up, not all of them, you know, but the sad cases end up on heroin, or, you know, losing their mind, or homeless, or something like that, which is just a shame, and it should never happen. But it's just because, you know, it's damaging to be in strained situations for a very long time, and that's like prison. And then I guess for him, being that, you know, he was the only Asian person I had seen, like, you know, like, he's the only one that I actually saw at that facility, the private facility. And at the state facility, there were 2 Asian people that I remember. I didn't really get to know them. Both of them were quiet. There was, I took like Buddha services when I was at the state facility. There was one Asian guy that was in the Buddha service, and he just was really quiet, but he was very nice. Out of the people that I came in contact with, oftentimes I would come across people that, like I say, either were just extremely rude to me right off the bat because they wanted nothing to do with me, and they wanted to make it clear that they don't want nothing to do with me, or, you know, they would flirt with me, hit on me, you know. And I'm being nice by saying that. Some people would outright literally just like wag their dick in my face, like, just like, hey, you into this kind of thing. But there were few people that were still like civilized, I guess you could say, in prison, and this guy was one of them. Like, you know, when I came to class, not every time, but sometimes he would just say hi, you know, if there was something to be passed out or whatever. He didn't act weird, you know, he was just a nice guy. Then there was another Asian person in the state facility that I would see sometimes on the rec yard, and he usually would just be working out by himself. So, in terms of queens, gay people or something like that, there wasn't any, you know. So I guess that's a good thing for the Asian community, you know, here in the U.S. They're not really locked up. But I mean, are you surprised? I'm surprised that I actually got that question. Like, Asian people are the most greatest people. Like, you know, they're the brightest people. They're usually the most disciplined people, you know, just, like, I don't know, I feel like the rest of us are all aspiring to get like them. And also, spiritually, like, I feel like Asians are the most wisest, usually the most spiritually connected. You know, if the aliens ever come, they're definitely going to want to visit the Asians before anybody else, because they're kind of like the superior intelligence, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not trying to insult anybody, you know, or anything like that, but in my opinion, I've always just kind of like loved, you know, the Asian culture. I had a lot of friends that were Asian in college, you know, and then just throughout my life. I've dated one guy that he was Asian, but, and he was like really buff, so that's why I liked him. But, yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say. I mean, you know, the most people, sadly, honestly, in prison are black. That is, out of all the compounds, like I say, in Virginia, the guy told me that there was only 3 compounds that are known for kind of like having like a lot of white guys. And by his term of having a lot of white guys on the compound, he said that the place where I was at had the most white guys. And I'm telling you, I'm being nice by saying half the population there was white and the other half was black. Like, it was really more like, what is that, 65, 35? No, 65, 45? No. Okay. I'll talk to y'all later. I still need to drink a couple of Mountain Dews. And now y'all know my secret that I'm an idiot. But y'all already knew that. And would you believe that I was in college and I was studying finance? And I actually have an associate's degree in business administration. But I always had 2 calculators on me. I had a Casio and a TI. Because the Casio is good for like multiplying fractions and stuff like that. They have like a button you could just type it in. For like calculus and stuff, you could put the whole equation on the top bar and the whole equation on the bottom bar. And then the TI, it was good for like that matrix chart thing. But yeah, I used to feel really stupid when I finished community college and I transferred into George Mason University. I felt like an idiot because I would have study groups sometimes with friends from class, and you know, when we're doing the assignments or whatever, usually the Asian people, whoever was Asian or Indian in the class, sometimes, you know, white person, like a white guy or a girl or something like that, but usually it was the Asian, the like minority people, they would immediately be calculating stuff in their head while I'm trying to pull out my calculator and type in. Yeah, anyway, I love you guys, and I hope I didn't like insult anybody in this video. I didn't mean no harm. I'm just a clueless little idiot. And I haven't quite loaded up on caffeine yet. So, and I'm going through a breakup. But okay, alright, I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Hopefully that answered your questions. Really, it's kind of like a compliment to you guys. Like, there is not really any Asian people locked up, at least in Virginia and in the facilities that I was at. I didn't see, and I would be looking, you know, but I didn't see anybody. So, have a great day. I will see you in the next video. Bye.